Welcome to the Tom and Barry Show. I'm Barry Trammell from the Tulsa World. That's tom-shatel from the Omaha World Herald. We talk all things college football, but mostly Sooners, Huskers, SEC, Big Ten, and oh yeah, Big 12, and our beloved Big 8. My man Tom has an old school Orange Bowl cap on. Love that old smiley orange logo.
Yep.
I guess that logo's been retired, Tom. I hadn't seen it in forever since I saw it on
Yeah.
just
They
now.
brought the new guy out. The new guy, the new mascot, uh, the year KU when he posed next to Mark Mangino, and it was hard to tell who the logo was, but I
Well,
remember that very well. But yeah, it's been a while. I haven't been to an Orange Bowl since '97. And if you'd have told me when I left that Nebraska Tennessee game that would be the last time I'd go to an Orange Bowl, in 30 years, whatever, I'd say you're nuts. But nobody saw it, what happened coming, and here we are.
yeah, Sooners or Huskers used to play every year in that thing. One time played each other, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, that Miami was like a winter home for Oklahoma and Nebraska. It was
yeah,
just it just became common and tradition and everything else. And the OU always played at the always stayed at the Fontainebleau on Miami Beach. I don't know where the Huskers stayed, but um,
yeah.
yeah.
They stayed there too. That was the Big Eight
Was it?
hotel.
Okay. Well, there you go.
And if you've ever seen the movie Goldfinger, the opening scene is at the Fontainebleau pool.
Yeah, well, that was old that was old home week for Oklahoma and Nebraska back in the day.
Yeah,
Of course, we got no bow ties. Everybody gets flung from here to there. We'll talk a little bit about the Huskers and maybe the Sooners. I wanted to bring up maybe the most fascinating story to hit college football this year, and that's Bill Belichick. Imagine if Kansas had hired Vince Lombardi circa 1970, or, I don't know, Texas Tech had hired Don Shula sometime in the 80s. I mean, North Carolina's football coach is Bill Belichick. He's 70 something years old. He's got a 24-year-old girlfriend that's making more news than any Heisman Trophy contender. This is a bewildering thing to me. Do you have a feel for how Bill Belichick's going to fare in the college game?
no, I really don't bear it. And I've been telling people I don't really care about his girlfriend. I know it was a big deal for a while, but I find the whole thing is just kind of funny. He kind of sits back and just kind of chuckles about it and lets it happen. And I think he's in a really interesting place right now. I don't think this is as big a story as I think it would be if he was at one of the football factories. I don't. I think it's sort of one of these stories. It's there, but I don't know how many people are really talking about it that much. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm just not hearing it. But my, my sense is the guy hasn't forgotten how to coach, but he's used to grown men who are making a lot of money. And I know there's money now in college football, but the NFL is it's all business, and if you don't do your job, you're going to get cut, and you'll get traded or whatever. And I just feel like um, college. I don't know how many kids today in the current climate want to be coached. Do they want discipline? And I think we're going to find out because he's not going to change. But I think he's going to find athletes that, and I think it'd be interesting for me how he holds up with all the mistakes. I mean, he's used to uh, a, a New England Patriots machine. Tom Brady at the helm. Uh, there, not a lot of mistakes, and those guys are football. They don't recruit. NFL is year round, and college football is a game of mistakes. They're paid now, but they're not professionals, and a lot of these kids are never going to play in the NFL. So he's going to be coaching a lot of kids who are never going to play, who are never going to be NFL players. So I think the whole thing is fascinating. I agree. It would be like Lombardi going somewhere. Um, I just think it's I just don't know if his roster is going to be good enough to really make a dent. I think the story would be I don't know who they play non-conference, but if they would beat Florida State or or Clemson, then maybe that would be a hell of a deal. I just don't know who he's going to beat that's going to raise a bunch of eyebrows.
You see any? I mean, 2 years ago we went through a little bit of this with Deion Sanders, a novelty act. Not a Hall of Fame coach, but a Hall of Fame player and massive personality, and people didn't know if it was a fit, and still didn't know. And then last year, of course, he has the monster year. What do you see any similarities with the? It's a lightning rod topic. Dion was, Belichick is. What do you? I mean, to me,
Yeah,
and is this a trend in college football? We're seeing unique hires and different kind of hires, and I just find the whole thing fascinating.
yeah, I think schools like Colorado and North Carolina are going to do what they have to do yeah, if they can be different, if they can make a splash, they will. I think Dion's a different guy, a different coach. Certainly more of the CEO. He was as good as his staff that he hired, and then he was the Pied Piper as far as getting talent to show up there. Um, I don't know. I haven't followed North Carolina recruiting or the portal. I don't know how many kids um, are are going to flock to Belichick. Because Dion is is known as I guess player friendly.
Yeah.
Well, Belichick's not player friendly. He's a hard ass, and he's going to coach him like that. Um, I also wonder, Barry, how many kids that have come along in high school in the last
Well,
4 or 5 years really know who he is
well,
and
yeah,
what
you're
he's
right.
done.
His last Super Bowl's what, 6 years ago? I think was it the 18 season when they
No, I think that was Brady, wasn't it, at Tampa? I don't know that the Patriots have been there. Was it 18? Okay, they beat the Chiefs at
yeah,
Arrowhead.
yeah, they beat the
Maybe
Rams
that was
13 to
18.
3. That Rams.
I think it was 18. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
is
Yeah,
the 18. So it's
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 been a while. Yeah,
it's been a while, but I mean the history does not go deep for 21-year-olds. I mean,
yeah.
they think they don't know a world in which Jalen Hurts was a quarterback at Oklahoma or Alabama. You know,
Ma-
he's that fullback playing quarterback for the Eagles. So that's a
I-
good point. That's a very good point. Now, the football people find Belichick fascinating because he was an unbelievable coach when Tom Brady was his quarterback, and he was pretty human when Tom Brady wasn't his quarterback. And it's my understanding that Brady will not be quarterbacking the 2025 Tar Heels. So Max
yeah,
Johnson, Max Johnson's going to quarterback North Carolina this year. So he's notable because he is the same age as Bill Belichick's girlfriend. Do you think, have you lived too long, Tom, or been in this business too long when one of our major coaches has a girlfriend and a quarterback who are the same age? That's
it's it's officially a sideshow, is what it is.
well, that's true. That
I
part.
just don't know how much longer he wants to go. Is this him trying to get back in the NFL and show him that he's willing to do anything? Or is he trying to get his son a head coaching job? Um,
Yeah, some of
I
that.
just think I just think this would be a better story if he was at a football factory, because I'm sure people in North Carolina are very happy that he's there, but I'm sure he's also sort of a curiosity there. And, Carolinas have to have basketball. They have to go to the Final Four. They don't necessarily have to have football. So I'm sure he'll get support, and I'm sure he'll get everything he needs. But I just think it'd be more fun to see him at like a Texas A&M or somewhere like that, Alabama, where the pressure's on, and you're surrounded by a bunch of great talent. Then I'd like to see him go up against Dabo and all the other guys, but I just don't see him doing a lot at Carolina. I mean, not like playoff type, runs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, our old pal Sonny Dykes, or maybe, heck, he may not be your pal, Sonny. I forgot. You've been gone from the Big 12 15 years, for crying out loud, Tom.
I
But
still follow. I still watch.
our old pal Sonny Dykes, I mean, 2 years ago, TCU opens the college football season with Deion Sanders' debut there at Amon Carter Stadium in Fort
Yeah.
Worth. This year, TCU opens the season with Bill Belichick's college football debut with North Carolina. Somehow, Sonny's ended up, TCU's ended up on a list. You guys are gonna, you guys are gonna open up against all the novelty acts in college football until further notice. He's got a pretty manageable schedule. Non-conference after that: Charlotte, um, Central Florida, and then Richmond, I think, are his three teams. So he could get off to a 4-0 start if he can beat the Horned Frogs, but I think TCU might get him. Well, we'll keep an eye on Belichick. Hey, Tom, I wanted to talk about a broad subject that includes the Huskers, but we have seen in the last couple of years, and maybe two or three programs, depending on how you want to measure it. But we've seen these grand names of college football, these traditional powers, these epic programs that had gone into massive slumps and really not lived up to much of their status for more than a decade, resurrect. We've seen Texas do it. Texas, you were on the early stages of this in the Big 12 after Texas's 2009 great season. The next 12, 13 years, Texas didn't do much at all. Had one really good year with Tom Herman, Sam Ellinger at quarterback, won the Sugar Bowl. But outside of that, they were pretty mediocre. There's a 12-year span, Tom, where Texas ranked sixth in the Big 12 in conference winning percentage. Sixth. But the last couple of years, Texas national semifinalist, easily could have won a national title either year, I think. So it's safe to say Texas is back. We saw another team make the college football playoff this year after a long bout of mediocre football, and that's Tennessee.
Hmm.
And 2 years ago, we saw Jim Harbaugh cap a rebuild that brought Michigan the national championship with a glorious season in 2023. Michigan pretty good in 21 and 22 also, but the decade before that, and you know more about that than I do, in the Big Ten, Michigan was way down. So we've seen these three schools sort of get back in the saddle where everybody thought they always should be. And my question is, who's left on that list? Traditional powers that ought to be way better than they've been, and we can't figure out, what's going on. And one of them is, of course, the Huskers. Another would be Miami. Anybody else on that list? And where are those schools? And any of them ready to maybe get back in the business and do what Michigan and Tennessee and Texas have done?
Yeah, I think you have a good list there. I would add USC to it. Uh, you know, Before Riley, I believe it was Clay Helton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been a while for them, and these things are always about the head coach. And uh, you know, Nebraska struck out with Frost. He was supposed to be the man. Um, Miami hired the man, or they thought they did, Mario Cristobal, and I don't know. Everybody thought he was going to come in and turn that place back into 1994 or 86. And he just hasn't done it. Um, and Lincoln Riley was the can't miss kid at USC. You plug him into the big city and West Coast, and look at all the quarterbacks and all the receivers come to him, and they haven't done it. And he's I don't know if he's on the hot seat. He's got a giant buyout. Um, but yeah, I think these programs are never that far away. If they hire the right coach, and people talk about, well, your Nebraska's irrelevant and their brand isn't what it used to be, but I think all that stuff is still there. It's just sort of dormant or simmering, but it doesn't take long for it to get back. Um, Miami is, I don't get it. I've always said there's no excuse for Miami and Florida State to be down, ever. Nebraska's up there in the plains and they're not around a lot of great players. Um, but down in Florida, you've got access to everybody.
everywhere.
Um, it's like LSU, access to great players. Some programs just should never be down. Um, and so I don't understand the Miami thing. I don't, you talk about NIL. I mean, they had boosters doing things back
Yeah,
in the 2000s and 90s. So they should be ready to go with NIL. Um, I just wonder in an age where everybody's got giant facilities and stadiums and all the bells and whistles. Miami has never done that. That they're still playing that dump, which is the old Joe Robbie Nebraska played there in 2015, and I couldn't believe how far that thing had been run down. Um, and they kind of put lipstick on it with the Hard Rock roof and all that stuff. But that's where this year's national championship game is. But and I wonder that they never, I thought they were going to build Miami a stadium on campus or close to it. I thought, well, that might be good for them, just to get away from Fort Lauderdale, where none of their fans are. So um, I don't know. I think I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. Uh, Probably somebody in the SEC. I'm not thinking about, but um,
well, let me ask you about Nebraska.
yeah,
How close is Nebraska to? I'm not saying win a national title or do what Texas, back-to-back semifinals, but I mean, Matt Rule, we've talked about, love Matt Rule, excellent coach. I think he's a winner at Nebraska, but how close is Nebraska to getting back to being something that resembles Nebraska, shall we say?
yeah. I don't want to talk about the playoffs or that kind of stuff because it's a lot harder than it used to be to do that, especially in this league where there's 7 or 8 brand names and they can't all make the playoff. So um, Nebraska needs to focus on what made them great. And I was talking to somebody the other day about this. You know the way they played the discipline, the running power offense that just wore people down, the confidence, the swagger. Um, I remember when I was at the Kansas City Star covering the Big Eight. You know, we used to make fun of Nebraska. We call them the robots, because the players didn't talk, and when they did, they all said the same thing, and they just would show up at KU and Missouri and all these places and just steamroll people, and they should not show any emotion. They never made a mistake. The offense was boring but very efficient, and you know they need to get back to a lot of those elements of kind of being boring but very efficient and very physical. When they got rid of Solich and hired Bill Callahan in 2003, they basically trashed the whole system. And I was for it at that time. I thought, well, this has kind of been good, but they need to overhaul it a little bit and kind of modernize things. And boy, was I wrong. I did not appreciate what I was watching in the 80s and 90s until it was gone. And Rule is getting that back bit by bit. They're more physical in practice. Um, Dana Holgerson of all people, he's not the air raid guy. In fact, I think he got thrown out of the air raid club. I think you told me that, but he likes to run the ball. Last
Uh,
year,
Yep.
in 3 or 4 games down on the goal line, he put his big monster defensive tackle, he went him up for fullback on the goal line, and he just mashed people. And Holgerson said, "Yeah, I did that as a tribute to Osborne." Um, but that's kind of what they need to do is to get back to that. So, but they just make too many mistakes, too many turnovers. They let special teams go. Nebraska always had some kind of punt returner. I remember a game against Oklahoma State in '84 in Lincoln, where some the Nebraska kid who was a rodeo star uh, was a punt returner and scored a touchdown to beat Pat Jones's best team. They've always had something like that. They've gotten away from all those little angles that made them great. So they're getting that back. I think they're still a couple years away. They got to keep getting players. Their NIL is really good now. It's in a good place. So it's just going to take time. They, they forgot how to win games. And that happens. And you just got to get that back. Sometimes it happens overnight. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all, and you just go slowly. But you know, I watched OU kind of the same thing. I know they had a big year a couple of years ago, but what are you at Oklahoma? What's your identity and all this stuff? And who are you? And Miami's kind of what are they doing? Well, they've got this big multi-million-dollar guy from Georgia, the quarterback. I didn't know he was worth that much, but and USC, we went out there last year, and they're good, not great. I mean, so I think I don't know if it's harder to get it back or what, but it's really interesting. I think it's a good topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to keep an eye on. And what I tell people is, I don't claim to know what's going to happen, but teams can get better quicker these days than 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Hire the right coach, hit the right portal additions, recruit well. It's quicker fixes. It's quicker fixes than it used to be. So I think Harbaugh took advantage of that. Sarkisian has, and we'll see about if the Tennessee thing holds. But the Volunteers certainly better.
It's tough sledding in the SEC, Barry, as you're finding out. And I watch from afar. Um, you get momentum, and then you can get knocked off the next week. It's hard. Um, Anybody that has 9 or 10 wins in that league has really done something. But you know, Harbaugh, it took him 4 or 5 years. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
he didn't
He
have a
was
quarterback. He
he
couldn't get a
was
quarterback, and his offensive line wasn't very good. And those are the two things that made him great at Stanford, and with the Niners. He needs an offensive line and a quarterback. Um, and he took him a while to get those guys.
yeah. Let's finish up. I'm gonna test your knowledge of um,
Uh-oh.
society. Down in Oklahoma, it's a big week for the education of Venmo, and Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer, of course, says he was making a joke about betting on USC, UCLA 3 years ago. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Who knows? But two questions for you. Did you know that Venmo was actually a front for a social media network in which you can make snide comments and inside jokes? I did not. I just thought it was a mechanism to transfer funds, sort of like the old Western Union or something. But no,
Yeah.
it's slash money ordering slash social media network. So I've learned a lot more about Venmo than I knew 2 days ago.
It's
Uh,
more than me.
yeah, well, I've never used Venmo. My wife has. She does not monkey around when it comes to money, so there'll be no jokes on the Trammel Venmo account. But somebody asked me this question, and this is a broad question, particularly relates to Oklahoma. But somebody said, "What if does the NCAA still have the power just to try to make an example of John Mateer, give him a suspension of a couple of games or something, just to reinforce the question or the reinforce the opposition to betting?" And I tend to think no. I tend to think the NCAA has become so lifeless in its enforcement that even if it wanted to do something, it would be hard pressed to come up with any kind of a punishment that would last. In
Yeah, they really are afraid of their own shadow. They're a shell of their old self. I remember, um, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, when the NCAA came to your campus, it was like the FBI. I mean, people were scared to death of the NCAA, especially the enforcement division. David Burst and all his army of young lawyers and
yeah,
enforcement guys who we used to hang out with in Kansas City. They're all great guys, and they would never talk about what they were doing, but they would come after you. They don't have the teeth now. They've been scared by lawsuits. I don't know when that started, but it's almost like people started to call their bluff, and they just back down. They still dole out a little punishment here and there, but I don't know if they want to get into the gambling thing. I don't know if they want to touch it. They backed off NIL in the portal. They haven't done anything with that. So why would they do this? I just think um, as a college athlete, I wouldn't even joke about that kind of stuff because you don't know if the FBI is listening.
yeah,
They're the ones who could come in and do something.
right.
I
You
don't know even know
mentioned
what they would do.
Hunter
But
Deckers in Iowa State a couple of years ago. That
yeah,
was not the NCAA. That was law enforcement
yeah,
that got involved and got those Iowa and Iowa State players in trouble. No doubt about it.
yeah.
So,
Well, I hope it works out, and I hope he doesn't make any more jokes.
well, yeah, need to stay off the down here. We've been likening it to the old snafu of joking about going through the security line at the airport. Even before 9/11,
Oh yeah.
you didn't make jokes about carrying guns onto the
No,
planes,
you don't.
which
I
guy
just
did
wonder.
it, but it got him in serious trouble immediately. So,
I just wonder, Barry, if and I guess it's maybe this is just too obvious to say, but I just wonder now that the players are making more money, the disposable income is available to
yeah,
is gambling more of a temptation. I hope not. Part of me is a little surprised that we haven't had more of this kind of stuff. Um, Seems like it's been in the NBA in the news lately, but I hope that it's just one of those things that comes up once in a while. And it doesn't really happen a lot, but I hope we never see it. And but I always wonder if what we're watching on Saturday is sometimes if it's real or not.
yeah, NBA, MLB both have had
Yeah.
new gambling scandals. You would think, this stuff goes back 100 years to the Black Sox. It goes back 60 years to Alex Karras and Paul Hornig. You saw it hit college basketball in the 50s and the 90s. I mean, guys, just stay away from the sports gambling, okay? Just stay away.
Hmm.
Just stay away. It can ruin careers. Well, Tom, this has been fun. We're
Yep.
getting nearer the season. We are getting nearing the season. We're a little more than a couple of weeks away. No, less than 2 weeks away from Dublin, and Farmageddon goes to the side of the Irish potato famine. And
Well, there's A
a
lot of
week
pressure
later.
in that game, Barry. The two teams that lost the first games, their season was basically ruined or over.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
Nebraska and last year Florida State.
Yeah,
So you
that's true.
don't you don't want to be Iowa State or K State and lose that game.
Well, I like myself some States and some I States. I pull for the old Cyclones and Wildcats. I hope the loser perseveres, can still have a good year. We'll talk about next week. We'll talk about
All right, we'll have to watch some games.
Armageddon crosses the pond. This has been fun. Tom-Shatel, berry-tramel, the Tom and Barry Show. Still no Switzer, still no Osborne. We're not making no promises, but maybe some week you'll show up and the real Tom and Barry will be here with us. We shall see. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.